The Cub and the Stranger. The forest was quiet that day. The sky was dark, and strange clouds moved slowly above the trees. A cold wind passed through the leaves. In the middle of the forest, a small predator cub sat alone. Its fur was dirty, and its front paw was bleeding. The cub was scared. It had never been alone before. The cub's name was Tiri. It was not strong yet, not fast, still young. Its parents were gone, chasing something or fighting something. Tiri did not know. All it knew was that they told it to hide. So Tiri waited, but they did not come back. Tiri cried out. Not a loud cry, but soft and full of pain. It waited again. Still, no answer. The forest stayed quiet. Even the birds were gone. Then, Tiri heard footsteps. Not heavy like its parents, not fast like wild animals. Slow, careful steps. Something was coming closer. The cub growled softly, ready to run if needed. But it could not run far with its injured paw. Out of the trees, a human stepped into view. Was tall, wearing a worn-out jacket and a metal pack on his back. His face was rough with tired eyes. His clothes were dirty and he had scratches on his hands. He looked like he had walked a long way. Tiri froze. It had never seen a human before. Its parents told it that humans were strange, not like any other creature. Not strong, not fast, not armored, but dangerous in ways no one understood. The human saw the cub and stopped. He didn't move closer. He just looked. His eyes were not cold, not angry, just curious. Tiri growled. Again a warning sound, but the human didn't run or raise a weapon. He simply knelt down on one knee and put his hands on the ground. Open. Empty. The cub watched him. This was not how predators acted. This was not how prey acted either. What was he? The human spoke, but Tiri didn't understand the words. Still, the tone was soft. Not a threat. Not a command. Then the human slowly reached into a small pouch and pulled out something, food, a small dry bar. He broke it in half and placed one piece on the ground, then he pushed it forward and backed away. Tiri sniffed the air. The scent was strange but not bad. It waited. The human didn't move. After a while, the cub limped forward and took the food. The human smiled. A real smile. No tricks. Tiri sat down again, still watching him. The pain in its paw was worse now. It licked the wound, but it didn't help. The human saw the injury. He took something else from his pack, cloth and a small bottle. He moved very slowly, step by step, toward the cub. Every step, he paused. He didn't want to scare the young creature. When he was close enough, he sat down again and showed the bottle to Tiri. Then, slowly, he poured a little on the cloth and waited. Tiri didn't understand, but something in the human's eyes told it not to be afraid. The human reached out and gently touched the paw. The cub hissed at first. The liquid stung. But then, the pain started to fade. The human wrapped the paw with the cloth and tied it softly. Tiri didn't move away. It was still watching the human. This creature was doing something it didn't expect. Helping. The human sat beside the cub, not too close. He looked around the forest like he was watching for danger. His hand stayed near his belt where a small tool hung. Not a weapon, but something useful. Tiri began to feel tired. The pain had made it weak, and the quiet forest made its eyes heavy. The human didn't leave. He stayed with the cub. For the first time that day, Tiri didn't feel alone. As night came, the wind grew colder. The human took off his outer jacket and placed it near the cub like a blanket. Tiri sniffed it, then curled up beside it. The warmth helped. The cub closed its eyes. The human leaned back against a tree. He didn't sleep, just watched over the small creature as stars appeared above them. Somewhere far off, something else was moving through the trees. Eyes watched from the shadows. Silent. Hidden. The cub was not alone. But neither was the human. And something was coming. They said he should have died. The next morning, the forest was not quiet. Birds flew away in panic. The ground shook slightly. Something big was coming. Tiri woke up first. The cub's ears stood tall. It smelled the air and froze. That scent, it was familiar, but not safe. Not this time. The human was already awake. He stood still beside the cub, watching the trees. His eyes were sharp now, like a soldier ready for battle. His hand slowly reached for the tool at his belt. From behind the trees, two huge shadows moved forward. Tiri stepped back. The cub's injured paw shook. It growled, but not at the human, at the creatures stepping into the clearing. Two fully grown predators, taller than the human, muscles thick like stone, claws sharp as knives. Their eyes were glowing and angry. These were Tiri's parents. They had come back. But when they saw the human standing near their cub, they roared, loud and deep, a sound that made birds fall silent and trees tremble. The human didn't run. He didn't raise his tool. He simply stood there, calm, still. The predators ran toward him. Tiri cried out. The human closed his eyes for just a second. He didn't move. But something strange happened. Just before the first predator reached him, it stopped. Not because of fear, not because of weakness. It stopped because it saw something it never expected. Its cub, Tiri, was standing between the human and its parents, limping, shaking, but standing strong. The adult predators growled. Confused, their cub should have been hiding, or afraid, but Tiri wasn't. The cub pressed its body close to the human's leg as if to say, "Don't hurt him. He is mine." The male predator moved closer. Its nose twitched as it sniffed the human. Then it saw the cloth around the cub's paw. The scent was clear. It had been the human's work. He had healed the cub, not harmed it. The female predator looked at her mate, then down at the cub, then at the human. And slowly, very slowly, she lowered her claws. The male followed. The roaring stopped. Silence returned. The human finally moved. Not away, but down. He knelt again. He opened both hands. No weapons, no tricks. The two adult predators stared at him. No one moved for a long time. Then the female did something no one expected. She let out a low sound, a soft one, almost like a hum. It was not a threat. It was a greeting. The human tilted his head, unsure, but he nodded, slowly. The moment passed. The forest was calm again. Tiri walked over to its parents. They checked the cub gently, then looked at the human once more. And without a word, they turned and began to walk away, back toward their den. The cub looked at the human, eyes full of questions. The human smiled. "Go," he whispered, even though the cub didn't understand his language. "You're safe now." Tiri took a few steps, then stopped, turned back, and waited. The human blinked. Was the cub inviting him? From the trees above, something else was watching. Small eyes, sharp ears. A scout. It raced back to the Predator Council with one message. The human lives. He touched the cub. He was not killed. He was accepted. And the council's answer came fast. Impossible. He should have died. But the truth had already begun to spread. A whisper between tribes. A question with no answer. Why did the predators spare the human? Back in the forest, the human followed the cub. Not too close, but close enough. Past trees, rocks and rivers. Toward a place no human had ever entered, a predator den. He was walking into the home of creatures who once hunted his kind, and somehow they let him in. Not with fear, but with something new. Trust. Not the first time. The den was made of stone and shadow. Sharp bones hung from the ceiling. Fires burned low in the corners. Strange symbols were painted on the walls, marks of hunts, wars, and blood. And now, inside that same place, stood a human. The first one ever to walk into a predator den and leave the door open behind him. Many stared at him, eyes full of fire, claws tapping the ground. Mothers pulled their cubs close. Warriors bared their teeth. But no one attacked, because of one small cub, Tiri. The little predator limped in front of the human, proud and sure, like the human was part of its own pack now, like he was one of them. But not everyone agreed. Far back in the shadows, an old voice growled, "I remember the last time a human touched one of ours." The crowd fell quiet. A tall predator stepped forward. Scarred face, broken tusk, one eye burned shut. "You should not be here," he told the human in his deep gravel voice. The human didn't reply. He didn't speak their language, but he watched, carefully, patiently. Tiri growled at the old one, soft but brave. The crowd gasped. The old warrior gave a dry laugh. "You don't know, cub. You weren't born yet, but I was there." He turned to the others. There was a war, years ago, on a red moon. They called it peace, but humans were sent to clean up what others left broken. Not soldiers, engineers, medics, builders. His voice lowered. "One of them saved my brother's life." The crowd blinked. A story? From the scarred one? "He was trapped under burning rock," the old predator continued. "No one could reach him. The heat was too much, the roof would fall. But the human went in anyway." Silence. No armor. No claws. Just fire in his eyes and pain in his lungs. "He came out half dead, carried my brother on his back." The warrior looked at the human now. "I do not know if this is the same one, but I know this smell, this silence, this type of human." He turned to the others, the kind who walks into danger when others run. Tiri looked up at the human, eyes wide. The human didn't understand the words, but he understood the emotion. He had seen it before, in other places, on other worlds. It was not the first time he had been feared, and it was not the first time he had been trusted by a cub. Flashback. Years ago. Another world, a human outpost under fire. Smoke everywhere. Cries from the wounded. The smell of metal and blood. The same human, just younger, carried a small alien child in his arms. Her parents were gone. His squad said to leave her behind, but he stayed. He built a shelter from broken drones, sang songs to her in a language she didn't know. And when help came days later, she was still alive, safe, because of him. Back in the present, the scarred one said to the council, "We think humans are weak because they don't use claws, but maybe that's their strength." The room was quiet. Then, one voice rose. Angry, sharp, or maybe he is just lucky. "A soft creature, a danger we can't see." Another added, "He must leave, now, before he makes the cubs forget what we are." The cubs. Many were peeking from behind rocks and corners, watching the human, eyes full of questions. Tiri stood tall. "This human didn't forget what I am," the cub said. He still stayed. The words were young, but strong. The council was silent. The human looked around. He could feel something changing, a line being drawn, not between predator and prey, but between fear and trust. For a moment, no one moved. Then an elder spoke. "Watch him. Learn from him. But do not forget, he is not one of us." And yet, none told him to leave. As the night grew deeper, the human sat by the fire. Tiri curled up beside him, head on his leg. He looked at the stars above through a crack in the roof. So many planets. So many dangers. But here, with the cub asleep beside him, he was at peace. But far away, something was coming. Something bigger than a cub. Bigger than a den. And this time, The human wouldn't just be a guest. He would be the only one standing between the children and the dark. The hunt begins, the scream tore through the night. Not a cub. Not a warrior. Something else. Something dying. Or worse. Something being hunted. Everyone in the den froze. Teary lifted its head. The human stood up fast. The sound came again. Long, cold. It didn't belong to any known beast, even the strongest. Predators felt fear in their bones. One of the scouts rushed into the cave. His fur was soaked in blood. Not his own. "They're back," he gasped. The hollow beasts. The council stood, eyes sharp, jaws clenched. They had hoped the legends were wrong, that the old stories were only that. Stories. But now the hollow beasts had returned. Creatures that didn't hunt for food. They hunted for silence. They killed the loudest first, then the bravest, then the young. The scarred one stepped forward. "Gather the warriors, seal the cub chambers, no one leaves the den." But the human was already moving. He checked his pack, pulled out wire, metal pins, a small folding screen that blinked with lights. He was planning something. Teary ran to him. "What are you doing?" Of course, the human didn't answer in words. But his hand spoke for him. He pointed to the forest, then to the cubs, then to himself. "I go. You stay." "No," Teary growled. "You don't understand what's out there. They don't bleed. They don't run. They don't stop." The human looked into the cub's eyes and smiled. "Neither do I." Outside, the forest was darker than before. The wind was dead. Even the trees held their breath. The human stepped out alone, holding a glowing stick in one hand and a small speaker in the other. He turned on a sound, a recorded cry of a cub. He was bait. He wanted them to come to him, and they did. First, just one. Tall, bone white. No eyes. Mouth open too wide. A monster that wore no scent and left no tracks. Then another. Then four. They moved without sound. Like ghosts. The human ran, but not in fear. He ran toward a narrow cliff, where he had laid traps made from broken predator tech and old human tools. As the beast followed, wires snapped, spears launched. Fire exploded from hidden fuel packs. 3 fell, but 1 leaped over. The human turned too late. Claws slashed. Blood hit the ground. He fought back. Small knife, sharp mind. He stabbed the beast's throat. It fell. But so did he. Back at the den, Teary felt something in its chest. A tightness. The scarred one stood at the mouth of the cave, waiting. Watching. Hours passed. Then, a shape appeared. Limping. Burned. Bloody. The human. He dragged one of the hollow beast corpses behind him, dropped it at the den's edge, then fell to his knees and passed out. Inside, the council stared at the beast's body. No one had ever brought one back before. Teary stood over the human's body as others patched his wounds. The cub didn't cry. It simply said, "He is not one of us." Then looked at the others. "But he is why we're still alive." That night, no one slept, because now they knew. The hollow beasts were back, and this time only one creature had the mind to stop them. Not a predator, not a soldier, a human. What makes a protector? He didn't wake for 2 days, not even once. The human lay still, wrapped in soft hides, his face pale, his chest rising slow like distant thunder. Teary never left his side, not to eat, not to sleep, not even when the healers said he might not survive. Teary just sat there watching, waiting, like a cub guarding a star. Others came to look at the human, warriors, elders, cubs, all silent, all confused. How could something so weak bring down a hollow beast? How could someone without claws fight like that? The scarred one watched from the shadows. "He's not a fighter," the old predator finally said. "That's what makes him dangerous. The others turned to him. He doesn't fight to win, he growled. He fights because someone else can't. On the third day, the human opened his eyes, slow, quiet, no words, just a look. He saw the ceiling of the den, then the soft glow of fire, then Tiri's face. The cub's eyes were wet, but it tried to act strong. The human smiled weakly, the same way he had smiled on the first day, back when the forest was silent and trust was new. You came back, Tiri whispered. The human didn't answer. He just raised his hand and tapped Tiri gently on the head like saying, "Of course I did." Later they gave the human a walking stick. His leg was still weak, but he didn't stop moving. He checked the defenses, marked maps, watched the cubs train. He never gave orders, just offered help. A small nod, a quiet gesture, but the warriors listened anyway. Because when someone bleeds for your children, you listen. One night while the den slept, Tiri sat beside the fire with the human. "You're not like us," the cub said. "You don't roar, you don't hunt, you don't even have fangs." The human just listened. Tiri looked into the flames. "So why are you the one who makes us feel safe?" No answer came. Just silence. Then the human picked up a sharp stone and began to draw in the dirt. Not words, not pictures, just a symbol. A small hand, holding a smaller one. Tiri stared at it and understood. The next day, a group of predator mothers came to the human. Each had a cub beside her, not wounded, not lost, just curious. They pushed their cubs forward. Tiri watched in shock. These were the most protective mothers in the tribe. They trusted no one, not even their own mates sometimes. But now they were asking the human to watch over their children, just for a moment, just while they hunted, and the human smiled. He sat down, opened his pack, pulled out a game made from old tech and bone pieces. The cubs gathered around, giggling, barking, cheering when they won. The human didn't speak a word, but he didn't need to. He was one of them now. Not a warrior. Not a predator, something older, something deeper, a protector, far away. The hollow beasts gathered again. They had learned something new. The den was stronger now. The cubs weren't weak, and one strange creature was teaching them more than just how to survive. He was teaching them why. When the fire comes, the stars disappeared, first. Then the wind stopped. Then the ground began to hum, a deep, low sound like something breathing beneath the soil. Tiri woke with a shiver. The human was already standing, staring at the sky. Not blinking, not speaking, just watching. Above the forest, the clouds turned red, the color of danger, the color of war. A sound echoed in the distance, click, 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 like metal teeth grinding stone. Then came the fire. Not the fire of warmth, not the fire of life. This fire crawled. It moved like a creature, slow and cruel, burning everything it touched, but leaving no smoke, just silence. The hollow beasts had changed. They were no longer hunting in shadows. They were coming as an army. And they brought something new with them. Machines. Twisted, broken machines, half living and half dead. Long legs, burning eyes, crawling over trees, spraying fire that screamed. The scouts never returned. The traps never slowed them. The den was no longer safe. The council gathered in panic. "This isn't a hunt," one elder said. "This is a purge," the scarred one growled. "We fight, we always fight," but another whispered, "Not like this, not without help." All eyes turned to the human. He stood at the edge of the firelight, wrapping wires, building something small and strange. No fear in his face. Only focus. Tiri ran to him. "You saw this before, didn't you?" The human looked at the cub. Slowly, he nodded. "You knew this day would come." Another nod. Tiri's voice dropped. "Then why stay?" The human finished the device, small, glowing. He placed it in the cub's paw. Tiri stared at it. "What is this?" The human reached forward, gently tapped the cub's chest. Then the device. Then the forest. "Your heart. Their future. My plan." That Night, the human worked alone. He wired the trees, set up lures, marked escape paths in the dirt. He didn't sleep, didn't eat, just built, like a man building a wall against death. When the fire came to the den, it did not roar. It whispered. It burned, without light, crawled without sound. But when it reached the traps, everything changed. The forest exploded. Lights flashed. Spears launched. Beasts screamed, but they kept coming. Machines marched through flames like ghosts. One broke through the line, towering, burning, with a hollow beast riding it. It reached the den entrance. The warriors ran forward. Fell. More followed. Also fell. Then Tiri stepped out. Just a cub. Shaking, but unafraid. The machine raised its arm, but it was too late. A hand reached from above, pulled the cub back, and dropped something. A small glowing device. The same one from before. It hit the ground, and the world cracked open. Fire rose. Not from the beasts, from the earth. A final trap. A fuel bomb made from old predator tech, human wires, and courage. The machine shattered, the beast burned. Silence returned, but the den was gone. Ashes, smoke, and no sign of the human. Later, in the black dust, Tiri found something. Metal tag burned, but the words still showed. In case of fire, protect the cubs. Tiri clutched it tight. The others gathered around. They had no home now, but they had something else. A story, a warning, a spark. Far above the planet, a ship floated in silence. Inside, a human opened his eyes, bandaged, weak, but alive. He looked down, at the world below, then at the new map glowing on the screen and whispered, "One more den, one more chance." The reason they trust us. The story began with fire, but it ended with a seed, buried deep, quiet, waiting. Months passed. The forest grew, back, slow and green, and in the center of that new growth stood something strange. Not a cave, not a nest, not a human base, something in between, stone and steel, fire and light, a new den built together by claws and by hands. Tiri walked through the halls now, taller, stronger, but never forgetting. Cubs ran past, laughing, warriors stood guard. But they no longer watched the sky in fear. At the heart of the den stood a statue, small, a human, not holding a weapon, not raising a flag, just kneeling, with one hand stretched out, open, not to fight, to protect. Below it, the words were written, in 3 languages. He stayed when he could leave. He gave when others took. He protected what was not his, so we gave him what could never be stolen. Trust. Many had come since that day. Ambassadors, scientists, curious travelers. They asked questions. Why do the predators trust a human? Why do they let humans near their cubs? Why do they tell human stories in their dens? Tiri always gave the same answer. Simple, true. Because we saw one burn, just to keep a child warm. In a hidden room, deep in the den, there was a voice log, old, static-filled. The human's voice, cracked and tired, spoke quietly. I wasn't made to be a hero. I just knew what it felt like. To be small, and afraid, and alone. So when I saw that cub, I remembered the child I used to be. That was enough. Far away, another world burned. A distress call went out. The predators listened. Then, one turned to the young ones and said, "Find a human. The right kind. They'll know what to do." And that is why even the fiercest species in the galaxy will trust a human with their cub. Not because we are strong, not because we are fearless, but because when the fire comes, we stay.